We're extremely worried about the situation in Syria. The hysteria is growing. The confrontation is being forced because of the statements accusing the Syrian government of using chemical weapons on August 21st. Washington, London, and Paris officially stated that they have irrefutable proof that it was the Syrian government's fault, but they can't present them yet. And they keep on saying that the red line was crossed and we can't wait anymore. Using force without the approval of the UN Security Council is a very grave violation of international law.
Last several days, President Obama and his entire national security team have been reviewing the situation in Syria. And today I want to provide an update on our efforts as we consider our response to the use of chemical weapons. What we saw in Syria last week should shock the conscience of the world. It defies any code of morality. Let me be clear. The indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, the killing of women and children and innocent bystanders by chemical weapons is a moral obscenity. By any standard, it is inexcusable, and despite the excuses and equivocations that some have manufactured, it is undeniable. The meaning of this attack goes beyond the conflict in Syria itself, and that conflict has already brought so much terrible suffering. There is a reason why President Obama has made it such a priority to stop the proliferation of these weapons and lock them down where they do exist. There is a reason why President Obama has made clear to the Assad regime that this international norm cannot be violated without consequences. I went back and I watched the videos that anybody can watch in the social media, and I watched them one more gut-wrenching time. It is really hard to express in words the human suffering that they lay out before us. As a father, I can't get the image out of my head of a man who held up his dead child, wailing while chaos swirled around him. What is before us today is real, and it is compelling. So I also want to underscore that while investigators are gathering additional evidence on the ground, our understanding of what has already happened in Syria is grounded in facts, informed by conscience, and guided by common sense. And as Ban Ki-moon said last week, the UN investigation will not determine who used these chemical weapons, only whether such weapons were used. A judgment that is already clear to the world. In fact, the regime's belated decision to allow access is too late, and it's too late to be credible. At President Obama's direction, I've spent many hours over the last few days on the phone with foreign ministers and other leaders. The administration is actively consulting with members of Congress, and we will continue to have these conversations in the days ahead. President Obama has also been in close touch with leaders of our key allies, and the President will be making an informed decision about how to respond to this indiscriminate use of chemical weapons. But make no mistake, President Obama believes there must be accountability for those who would use the world's most heinous weapons against the world's most vulnerable people. Nothing today is more serious, and nothing is receiving more serious scrutiny. Thank you.
Attempts to bypass the Security Council once again to create artificial, groundless excuses for military intervention in the region are fraught with new suffering in Syria and catastrophic consequences for other countries of the Middle East and North Africa. The United States' decision to postpone the meeting in The Hague is sending precisely the opposite signal to the opposition, encouraging their intransigence as they wait outside intervention. We are calling on our American partners and all members of the world community to demonstrate prudence and strict observance of international law, especially the fundamental principles of the UN Charter.
Despite the allegations of a large-scale chemical weapons attack, Russia's position on the possibility of military intervention in Syria hasn't changed, and so nor has its message to the United States and its allies. Don't even think about it. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says there's not enough evidence to blame the Syrian government for this attack, and says there's actually substantial evidence and a lot of common sense suggesting Syrian opposition forces were responsible. And he's also cast doubt on the authenticity of some of those videos which appeared online claiming to show the aftermath of the chemical weapons attack. He says he believes some of them were uploaded hours before the attack took place. The Russian government says the opposition forces' motivation for carrying out such an attack against the Syrian people would be to scuttle any chance of a peace process. Russia, the United States, other parties have been working together to hold a big international conference that would hopefully settle the conflict in Syria diplomatically once and for all. But Russia says it doesn't believe the opposition wants that conference to take place and would prefer to fight for an outright military result.